So today I've got Chip McCabe on the show, though some of you might know him better as Creed Woodhouse. Chip's been covering extreme music and horror for decades, writing for places like Metal Insider, the Chicago Tribune, and he runs the Metal Dad, where heavy metal, horror, and parenting all crash into each other. He hosts the Fiendish Five podcast, he wrote the absolutely unhinged 666 Days of Metal, and he just dropped his debut horror novel, Kindred, under the Creed Woodhouse name. Now, you wear a lot of hats, and I've been looking forward to this, so let's just get right into it. I always ask about, what were you expecting your creative industry to be versus what you found out it was? But before I, hand the mic over to you, I wanted to ask, I actually saw that Kindred, you were, tentatively ready to print, or publish, rather, in 2023. And I think that what you wanted to do was obviously make sure that it's a good, wholesome release is my guess. And you took the time to prepare and make sure that it has a good foundation for release. Is that a fair assessment, or am I off on a couple marks there?
Yeah, no, I actually started writing this book during the pandemic in 2020. And we could talk more about that process, but I felt that it was done enough that I could publish it in 2023. And then I just got cold feet is really what it comes down to. So I had been sending it out to publishing houses and literary agents and was getting all of this great feedback. But of course, and what I later found out was getting any feedback from those people is great because they usually just ghost you.
Yeah.
But what I did realize is that I needed to make sure it was as perfect as I was going to get it before I actually put it back out into the world. So I had created the social media accounts and kind of teased that it was coming, as you saw very astutely, as early as 2023, and then sat on it and continued to tweak and edit. And then I was having a conversation with a musician friend of mine, and she was like, much like a musician with an album, at some point you just need to let it go into the wild and put yourself out there and let it be judged. And that was the best advice I had been given at all ever in the creative process for anything that I've done. And so, at the tail end of 2025, I just quietly released it under the Creed Woodhouse name and just let it kind of float out there, and then realized I should probably tell these people that know me that Creed Woodhouse is me, so that they know that I'm not inviting them to a Facebook page of some weird random author. So that's kind of how that process went. But yeah, this is my first true creative writing project in a long, long time. As you mentioned in your intro, I had done journalistic writing for decades. That is a very different animal and a very different beast. And I had found that I felt that I had sort of reached the top of my game with that, being able to be published in, magazines and newspapers and websites and all those things that you would be published in. But publishing a novel is a whole different, it's a whole different type of storytelling, as you know. So, yeah.
It's eerie how many. So when I first got the contact from, your publicist and my business partner, good friend, Christopher, had put me in contact via them. At first I was a little blown away by the similarities between you and me, just because we've been spending time writing about heavy music for quite some time. I mean, you absolutely have got years on me by a bit, but but then the mix of parenting is also in there because I feel a bit more recently thrown into it, and then of course a debut horror novel, and so this is the weird part is there's a lot of that synchronicity, but I also understand that you've probably gone through an entirely different experience completely because you did, and of course you have. So that's what you've confirmed. You've tried playing the traditional routes. You've done that, and much to most people's dismay, that it is the realization that that's not just gatekeeper by name. That is entirely what that entire industry is.
Yes, 100%. And it's funny because I had published 2 nonfiction works in 2017. You mentioned 666 Days of Metal, which I self-published. And And that was, I think I had only talked to maybe 2 or 3 publishers, and they were like, yeah, it's too big. And I'm like, well, I'm not cutting it, so I'll just publish it myself. I knew that was going to happen that way. But I also published a book about Hartford, Connecticut, where I live. And that was done through a traditional publisher who does travel books. But that fell into my lap. I didn't pitch that. That was literally, they found my contact info online, was like, hey, do you know someone who can write a book about Hartford? And I was like, I do, it's me. And so I did. But even working with a small indie publisher, and I'm sure bands feel the same way working with small indie labels, like you're supported to an extent. Like you are still responsible for booking shows. In this case, it's, author appearances or whatever it is. You're still responsible for selling your own merch, all of those types of things. So it's a whole different world than, say, if you were signed to like Penguin or Random House or some massive publishing house that's going to do all the dirty work for you. It's the same thing. It's the difference between, for metal fans, being signed to like, Roadrunner versus being signed to like a little indie label from in your backyard. So,
right.
But yeah, I knew going into this process, I knew how gatekeepery it was. I just made that word up. So I had no expectations that this was going to like be all of a sudden my first novel picked up by some literary agent or some publishing house. But I also thought to myself, I'd be silly not to at least try. And so you hear all the stories about, the big one is J.K. Rowling was turned down like 100 times for the first Harry Potter book, and all of a sudden now she's a quadrillionaire. Sure, that's everybody's dream, I guess, for the most part. But for me, it was just getting that art, as you could put it, into the world and into the hands of people who might want to read it. That's really it. I have no qualms about like this making money or being a second income or anything like that. I just really enjoy writing and wanted to share this story with people.
You wanted to give it a fair shake, right?
Yeah.
It's like respecting the work that you've spent so much time with.
Right.
I think that's one of the purest ways that you can actually deal with it, because if you can stop looking at the marketing of your book as like either hoops to jump through or motions to go through, and instead seeing it as I don't know. I've tried myself to figure, because there's nobody holding my hand. I self-published, but using our imprint that I created because I used my own book as the guinea pig for how to do it. I made all the mistakes and continue to do so on the regular, and I'm the one who is getting all those hits and bullets out the gate, so that anyone who follows subsequently in our roster, I know it because I've done it, right? And so the social media aspect of it, where you're told, all right, time to make content. Well, fucking how? How does your specific niche work? You know what I mean? And like for guys like us, and I am going to do that. This is my first time doing that. I'll do it a few more times at some point. Awesome. But for guys like us, where not only are we separate and other because we are, we want to pursue a fiction writing, like in somewhat earnest, not like I'm going to commit everything and gamble. No, much more sensible, where it's like, no, this fulfills me. I think that this is a worthwhile creative venture. I will take money, time, resources out to dedicate to this without, putting everything in. But I will also, we're also separate as well because of the music that we listen to, the subgenre, the communities that we're part of. I mean, I kept myself very small and hidden when I was working at a blue chip firm years ago. I've worked transparently. I worked at Mercedes-Benz Financial Services back when I was living in the UK. That was like 6 years ago. But I was very careful about like, hey, you don't just go around that place and be like, hey, do you like experimental grindcore? Because if you do, have I got the thing that I used to do for you, where, whatever. Like I used to be in this band. I'm sure that you'll like it. No, they will absolutely not. They will for sure not like it. And that's the thing, is we're so like hidden in plain sight with that. So it's tough. It feels like a second layer of difficulty, because you're trying to like, I don't know, figure out like, how do you not be self-promotional? Because that's the worst thing you could be. In most metal, you can be a little bit more promotional. I'd say like in punk and hardcore, oh my God, no. You have to do it in a very, very, very careful, measured, specific way. And if you ever transgress that, everyone gets the ick. Everyone feels bleh, right?
Yeah.
So you've managed to do what you can to make sure that you're giving it the fair shake, but you're also like kind of doing it without there being like a well-trod path for that. And I feel like that has got to be a very lonely road to be walking at times.
I think for any artist, it's a lonely road to walk sometimes, because you get to a point, and this is for musicians, for writers, for any medium of art, you get to a point where it's just you and the art, and that's it. And, when you're storytelling, whether that's through music or poetry or fiction or whatever that looks like, you're sharing that story with your listeners or your readers. But while you're creating that story, it's just you. It's you in these characters. It's you in this story. It's you in this plot. It's you in this setting. And if you didn't have self-doubt as you were putting that all together, even just a little iota of it, then I think you're probably actually an AI chatbot, because that's a human reaction to say, I'm creating this, but what if I'm the only one who finds this interesting, or I'm the only one who thinks this is scary, or I'm the only one who, likes that experimental grind that I'm creating. And that was what I was kind of feeling, where I was going through the motions of, well, I've got this manuscript. Now what do I do with it? Right. And so when I finally put it out, it was like a catharsis. It was a release of like putting this out into the universe. And I figured, and it's funny, I'm going to chew my own horn just a tiny bit here. All of my reviews that I've gotten online so far, whether it's Goodreads or the Barnes & Noble web, they've all been positive. And glowing. And some of them are people I don't even know, which is great. Like, every now and then I'll be like, oh yeah, I did radio with that guy years ago or whatever, you know what I mean? But like,
sure.
I'm waiting for the first negative review, because then I feel like I've actually made it as an artist. Like, I'm waiting for it.
I'm like goosebumps, because at some point, if you get big enough, it means that you've actually gotten out that, hey, I don't know this person, and they're giving me unfettered, true no bullshit. Because every person that you speak to in your world, there is no upside to them being 100% honest, and also none of them just happen to be writers, unless, in which case you probably have a grant with like some creative fiction thing. I don't know. Give me a fucking break. Like, congrats on your MFA. Like, leave me the fuck alone. No, like, we've come from the outside in, I assume. If you did, apologies that I just toasted that particular pathway. But like, I have the feeling that like you're pretty self-wrought in your own way, and I do think that it is a tough thing at the best of times to get truly honest, zero bullshit feedback, even from an editor, because it's like, I mean, I can edit people's work, but I still need to deliver it in somewhat of a soft way. God knows some of my writers have some opposition to that, I'm sure, but you pull your punches a little.
That was part of the reason why I wanted a pen name for my fiction, was because everybody knew my writing and knew my journalistic writing. And I thought to myself, if I'm going to elicit honest, open feedback from people who know me, then maybe they should not know that I wrote this book. But then the problem is trying to get the book into people's hands without them finding out that it's you anyway. So it was like,
it's a tough one.
It was a double-edged sword there. But, I feel like the people who have offered me feedback that has been, both positive and critical, it's always been constructive. And that's what I appreciate, right? I've yet to get that review or that feedback where it's like, well, this just blows. There's like no reasoning why. You know what I mean? Like, I did have one musician friend of mine who, he gave me 4 stars instead of 5 online, because there were little bits of the book that he was like, well, maybe this could have been better. That's awesome. Like, that to me is the most honest feedback I've gotten so far, and I love it. So, because as a writer or musician or whatever, again, a painter, whatever it is, you want people to appreciate your art, and you will have your fans. But like I said, I don't think you're truly an artist until you have someone go online and just crap talk you for, like, keyboard warrior you online. That's when you've made it, in my mind, as an artist. That's when you really wear the hat. So.
Hell yeah.
But that could also just be
Nice.
from years of me working at a record label and listening to people talk crap about the bands I was trying to work.
It's true, because like you came from like a more curatorial like background, and I feel the same way as well. I'm also like something of a little bitch myself. You know, I'm a pseudo. I sometimes give myself shit by saying I'm a pseudo intellectual, some wannabe hipster in recovery. That's when I'm my least charitable. But this is what I'm saying is, do you ever feel like you're your own worst critic? Because I definitely know I do.
Oh, 100%. All the time. 100%. I had started and scrapped probably a dozen novels before I finally sat down and wrote this one. And every time I would start the process and go, this isn't good enough. Without any even putting other people's eyes on it to give me feedback on it. It was just immediately me saying, this isn't good enough. I'm not doing this. I'm not moving forward with this. And I mean, I have bits and pieces of short stories and novels and all these things in various folders on various laptops that I'm like, well, now that I've actually done it, I've proven to myself I can do this. It's time to revisit. It's time to go back to some of these stories and these characters. And maybe I'll feel differently about them now.
I don't know who you are, but you need to stop living my fucking life. I am not a fan of this like bizarro. But this is the thing: is like we think that we are so singular, we are so isolated, we are so completely alone in this, and yet it's funny how if you do end up doing this thing, like I don't know, write a book and actually release it and give it a fair shake, or start a podcast, even though it's not the right time, it's never the right resources, and you will fuck up, 100% you will. I have got an episode right now that I'm still trying to figure out and fix because, wouldn't you know it, I made a big old mistake on it, and that's just part of the learning experience. Have fun. And if you smother it and if you shit on it, if you keep on hiding it, your soul will go, yeah, I don't like that. And then before you know it, you start doing some weird shit. And I don't know how weird your shit has gotten, but like it's been pretty bad in the past for myself.
Well, I'll tell you how weird my shit has gotten. You know, when I was in high school and college, I was a prolific writer. I mean, I wrote all the time. And I had stuff published in like school papers and things like that, and friends' zines. I would write articles or stories that would appear in zines or magazines. And then, you know, I got into, after college, I just stopped. Like I got into my own head so much that I literally just stopped writing until I got these opportunities to write for various newspapers or metal blogs or things, because I thought, well, I can write about an album. I know the album. I know the band. I can do that. Right. How bad can I screw that up? Apparently not much, I guess, because people kept asking me to write for them. I put the creative writing completely aside. And then, of course, I started having kids, so then there's less time. So you start making excuses. Oh, I've got a full-time job. I've got 4 kids. I'm doing these radio shows. I'm doing this other thing. And like, you find excuses to not create because you're doubting yourself too hard. Like that's how weird my shit got.
Right. I mean, that's not too weird at all, to be honest with you. I was hoping for some sort of like, I don't know, crazy public meltdowns, but okay, fine. You are much more temperate.
No selling my soul to get back into it or anything like that. Nothing too.
Fuck, I still haven't met one of those. Oh well, we'll find one. It's okay. Wouldn't that be awesome, by the way? Just as an aside. That would be so sick. That would be like, I'd make that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, finding like a modern day Robert Johnson. Like, oh, by the way, I did actually sell my soul to Crossroads to write that album. Like, oh, awesome. Cool.
Yeah. Like, oh, that's dope. Yeah. Was it in fact like the like bog standard devil, or are we talking like Babylonian, like Zoroastrian? I actually love that. That reminds me, I don't know if you've ever read A Short Stay in Hell, but that was written by, first of all, a mathematician, I do recommend it. It's a real fucking nasty one, but not because of any other reason other than the sheer daunting vastness that it is able to convey in this really weird way. The only reason I bring it up, though, is because at the very beginning of the book, people are being judged by this demon, and they're like, everyone, to their dismay, realizes that, oh yeah, no, Zoroastrianism is the right one. Sorry. Everything else was wrong. I thought it was such a cool, like, I don't know. I thought that was really cute. Anyway,
I think that was also a South Park skit where they all go to hell, and the devil's like, "No, I'm sorry. The correct answer was Mormon."
Oh yeah. God, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
Damn. It's a good bit. So with the... I've lost track of my next question because of course I have, but just keeping up with this vein here is like you have all these additional things like life gets in the way. And just like we can convince ourselves if we have like a little injury from going into the gym, just the same way, like our time is taken up. But you said you have 4 kids, by the way?
I do, yeah. They're all older now. My oldest is 26, and then I have a 22-year-old, 19-year-old, and 13-year-old.
Wow. Holy shit, first of all. I've got 2, and I don't understand like anything past that number. I'm like, nope. I've got 2 hands. That's it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
100% no. Never. 3, and although I have heard people say like, well, after the third one and anything after that is like easy, and I'm like,
Yeah. Once
no, I don't think it is.
Once you're outnumbered, you're outnumbered. It doesn't matter.
Okay. I still don't believe you. I feel like, yeah, I feel like it's not gonna, yeah. 2 as it is my God. But yeah, 4 with that coming along, like there's no way I could imagine. But you're right, life gets in the way, and then after a while it comes back to you. And how could you find, what were some of the tells that you knew you had to like re-center it?
I think the first tell was that I could not get this story out of my head. Like I had always thought up these ideas and things, and I would even jot them down sometimes, or I'd send myself an email if I was like out and about in the world. I would like shoot myself an email on my phone, or sometimes I would walk past 2 people and I would catch like one line of a conversation and go, "Oh, that's a good prompt. That's a good writing prompt," and I would email myself that sentence that person said, right? And sometimes it would be so random I'd go back and find the email and be like, what the hell? What is I threw my glass against the wall? Like, what was that from? But like, so I couldn't get this story out of my head. And then COVID hit. And I decided to force myself into a writing regimen. So when I would write for, papers or magazines or whatever, I don't know if you believe in any of that. I'm a Pisces, which means I am a king procrastinator. I work best under deadline, under pressure. So I would literally like research what I needed to and then sit on it and then write the article like 24 hours before it was due, maybe less than that. Right. Fully knowing that they may come back to me with edits. Thankfully, 9 times out of 10, they didn't, because I had at least done the research ahead of time. It was just all a matter of putting the puzzle piece together, right? So for this, I thought to myself, I need a writing regimen. I need to force myself to do this. So I would write at night for a couple hours, and this was another tell. The first night I did it, it felt electric. It felt absolutely electric, and I thought to myself, this is it. This is the one. And then in the morning, I would wake up and I would edit or go back through what I had written the night before with fresh eyes. And I would literally just do that every day for about 5 weeks. And I wound up with a 98,000 word novel, which is a little bit longer than what the final draft wound up being. But, and I just made sure I stuck to it. Weekends, holidays, it didn't matter. I was going to do that regimen of at least an hour to 90 minutes at night and another hour to 90 minutes in the morning, so that I was logging, 2 to 4 hours a day of just writing on this novel. So, and I'm finding, because as soon as I got done with this novel and was getting ready to put it out in the world, I started a second novel. And I got about maybe 2 chapters in, and I thought, man, this is even 10 times better than the last thing I've written. I love it to death. I love the story. And I'm still in that same spot that I was like 4 months ago, because I didn't put myself into that writing regimen. So I clearly have to go back into that. Otherwise, this thing's going to sit, and it's going to take me years to put this thing together when it took me 5 weeks to put this other book together. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of how that flowed.
No, it 100% does. There's like this. You still have to build the tap. Just because you have a source to do it doesn't mean shit. Like, the whole point of plumbing is to get it to a very specific point, no? So, like, that makes complete sense to me. But the regimen is everything. It is the discipline. It's the, what do you prioritize, simply? I mean, yeah, I do think that yeah, you have to. There's something to be said for a discipline and treating it as though it is a professional craft. It's Pressfield in War of Art. He says the same thing. He says you show up and you get your ass in that seat and you fucking tell resistance to bugger. Like it's you against resistance.
It is, and it's funny because I read this quote from Stephen King, who I've loved since I was a kid, where he said, somebody asked him, well, what's the first thing you tell a new writer? And his answer was, write. Just don't do it, just write. And at first and when I first heard that, I was like, man, that's some pretentious shit right there. But then I literally thought about it and was like, no, he's 100% correct. He is 100% correct. Like, you just need to just sit down and force yourself to do it, because once you do that, once you break that barrier, it's like riding a bike. It becomes so much easier.
And you can only improve by doing the thing. And also the only sole source of truth is not about strategizing. It's not like one of those things where you can like measure 15 times and then you get that much better a thing. Sorry, but no. Actually, the shittiest thing is that you can actually, I wanted to ask, this is one of my questions is, are you more of an outliner or are you more of a discovery writer?
I think I'm more of a discovery writer. I certainly was with this process. I had an outline. Okay. I had notes that I had jotted down about different characters and about how I wanted the story to flow and specific scenes that I had in my head that I wanted to get going. But I wrote this book chronologically. I didn't put it together like they do a movie where they're just filming scenes and then piecing it together in the end. I started with the beginning and I finished with the end. And then thought, okay, well, now I'm going to go back during the editing process and see where I need to maybe move stuff or do. But I wrote it from start to finish because I felt like, again, being in that regimen, that was the only way I was going to really stick to the script, so to speak, and just get a first draft done that I could then work with in the editing process. So for this next novel that I'm working on, it's the same thing. Like, I have copious notes of what I want and, specific scenes, specific characters, and specific plot points that I want to hit. But I started writing from the beginning, and I'm probably going to do the same thing. So I think I'm much more of a discovery writer.
Amazing. And that's the thing is, like, no matter how much of an outline you have, even if you have, like, the 15 or 50 or 100 measurements, you're still going to have that moment where you're like, you suddenly write something that you could swear did not come from you. Like, it's one of those things, like, it is a bit spooky because you're like, God damn, where the fuck did that even come from? And yet there's no way, and it changes things. And you're like, I'm not changing that. That is absolutely the truth of this work.
My favorite part of the process was actually like going through it and being like, I'm going to have this character do X. And then as I'm writing it, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. What if they did Y? And then it's like, and all of a sudden, like, a little light bulb goes off and you're like, no, this is even better than what I had originally dreamed for this character or this plot point. So yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of the whole process.
Yeah. It's the iterations in real time where you think you have the idea of it. And then these micro, for me, it's a bit visual. It's almost like a timeline editor where I'm just kind of like going back constantly over and over. And I kind of, as I'm writing, because you're limited in your writing. If you try to, I don't know about people that are like able to transcribe or voice dictate writing. I have tried that. It's so much more different because this is why, oh my God, her name escapes me because of course it does. Oh, Julia Cameron says you got to write it via hand. She's like, please don't use a typewriter. Please don't use a computer. Please don't use anything else. Please use a pen because you are limited in how fast you can get all that shit out. That's the point. The point is sitting with that discomfort and being able to allow yourself to not wallow, but like definitely like marinate in that, I guess. I'm not sure if she ever used the word marinate with that, but regardless.
I love that. And it's funny because I am of an age, we'll say I am a Gen Xer, where all of the writing I did as a kid was by hand. There were, it was either doing that on our old school typewriter. So I love to jot things down, at least like start certain paragraphs by hand and then go back and sort of fix them or mold them on a laptop, but there is something about writing by hand that I still absolutely love.
Yeah. I mean, there's something even more to be said for it now, because now this is going to sound so cold and so clinical and kind of dystopian, but I'm going to say it.
Okay.
It's also proof and evidence that you can use for content that you actually wrote this effing thing, because in today's society, that's like a thing that you actually have to be somewhat, or you might need to be somewhat conscious of.
Yeah.
Like, it is so weird to me that we are now like far into an age where you have to be that much more sharp-eyed. I mean, I can spot AI writing. I use it all the time with like useless marketing copy, all the time, because I'm using it for just like, okay, well, how do we get this out of the way? Okay, and then obviously it's fucking garbage every single time, and people spend so much time trying to prompt for creative writing, and I'm like, why are you doing that?
You know what's funny?
Why?
I have only used AI for writing once in my entire life. And I was asked to do it by my boss at work. I do a lot of grant writing because we do a lot of events and I have to raise the money for it. And I needed a cover letter from my executive director. And she said, well, can you just throw it into ChatGPT for me and I'll sign it? And I was like, what? So I did. I took what she wanted and I put her words into ChatGPT and it spit out the most bullshit cover letter I've ever seen in my entire life.
Milquetoast, munja cake, average regression to the mean shit.
And we got the grant. And I was like, okay, so, and that is the only time in my life. And I felt so dirty. I'm a Luddite as it is. You mentioned social media. I don't even like to be on social media. Like, if you look at the Creed Woodhouse social media, I am doing a poor job with it. I will fully admit that, because I just don't know what the hell I'm doing. And I cannot imagine, I just cannot imagine anyone having, like, consciously saying, I'm going to take my creative process, and run it through a fucking machine. I cannot fathom that. I can't. And I'm like you, I can pick out the AI writing in a second. AI photos in a second. Like,
ooh, they're getting so good now, though. Ugh, I hate it. Fuck, yeah. They're getting so good. I mean, and that's the problem, right? We're living in Baudrillard's fucking fourth level of simulacrum, like right now. Yeah. Like it's here. We are like getting fooled about whether world leaders are still alive or not, and shit. Right. Like, it's proof of life is getting that much weirder and harder, and it's like, I hate all of this so much more than I ever thought possible. And on that. This is the shittiest part, is like, I now have to, now that I've got the most juicy like thing that I would love to just grind my axe about, I now have to leave you, because dear listener or viewer or whoever is here with us right now at this moment, I had a hard stop, and unfortunately the technical aspects of things sometimes just gets in the way of us. But I have assurances that you and I can maybe revisit this another time.
100%.
Because yes. I want to talk about horror in general, but I also want to talk about writing in general. Those are two of my favorite things, and I'd love to pick the shit out of your brains. So, like, well, yeah, the phrasing on that wasn't really... I could have done a better job with the phrasing on that. But yeah, I definitely want to explore that further. I will say on that note, when it comes to AI and large language models and all that shit, I think one of the best things I've seen recently was Kane Parsons. He had this quote. He was on a podcast, I think, or an interview at least. Director of the new Backrooms film and with A24, which I still haven't seen, so people stop talking to me about it, please. Stop. I haven't seen it yet. I'll see it with my sister in a couple weeks. Leave me the fuck alone. But he said, the second I see, and I'm paraphrasing, the second I see that an aspect, like even a single aspect of your creative venture has had generative AI used in it, it makes me lose interest in all of the other exploring all the other nooks and crannies and the little details, and I suddenly lose all interest. And you know what? I don't think I've found a better way to describe frustration, but also just numbness that you get with it, because you're like, oh, you used that for well, then fuck you then. Like, I can't trust you.
100%.
You know?
1000%.
Yeah, this was such a like tease for me because I got just such a small little piece. So like, thank you for your time. I am gonna tie it off now. I'm looking forward to speaking with you again, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Me too. I appreciate your time. Thank you.